Overall, I don't think that went too badly, I say honestly. He seemed to really like going to the mall. There's not much to do there, but then again, I guess it's impressive if you've never been to a mall before, and we still haven't hit up the arcade yet. Holding hands? Hieronymus asks me as he shoots me a look. He saw other people holding hands and he grabbed mine, I say defensively. Please tell me you're not jealous over that. You can cast empathy on me if you don't believe me, because I'm not even remotely attracted to him. Hieronymus just shakes his head. What happened in the library with Miss Cochran? I can't help but cross my arms over my chest as I shift in my seat. If it's all the same to you, I really don't want to talk about Minnie. But we should. I should ask him why he didn't have time to do his independent study with me, but he was willing to make time for her. I should ask him why he seemed to push for Daniel to study more with Minnie. Did he believe that my magic wasn't good enough? Or did he just think that her teaching skills were superior to mine? Instead, I just sit there, quietly fuming, while Hieronymus watches me. Eventually, he decides to cast an empathy spell on me, but I defuse it before he even leaves his hands. He looks surprised, but I can't seem to bring myself to care. I had been keeping secrets. Again. There was more and more that I decided not to tell him, and all for various reasons. Sometimes he was too busy. Sometimes I didn't want to burden him with talk of the future when he had so much to worry about in the present. Sometimes I was just flat out worried about what he would say or what he would think of me. I was so desperate to try to prove myself as an adult that this was a relationship of equals that I was losing sight of the fact that it was driving a wedge between us. If there's something bothering you, you need to talk about it, Hieronymus says. I'm not going to force you to if you're not ready, Tori, but if you have a problem, we should at least talk about it. Why talk about a problem if there's nothing you can do to change it? I ask flatly. Hieronymus just shakes his head as if he's disappointed in me. You have nothing to be jealous of, Tori. I don't know what you're jealous of, exactly, but I'd rather you just tell me instead of leaving me trying to guess. I'm not jealous, I insist, but Hieronymus just shoots me a look like he doesn't believe me. No, why would I be jealous? Who would I even be jealous of? Minnie? She already explained. You're doing an independent study with her to catch her up on all the blue magic she missed last year because she decided to avoid any classes that I might go to. And all she does is study day in and day out, so it makes sense that you'd want Daniel to study with her instead of loafing around with me and Virginia. Hieronymus just sighs as he shakes his head. As much as I would like to dismiss this as petty student drama, I must call your attention to the fact that I am trying to teach you the same lessons you are trying to instill in Mr. Callister. I pause, really listening to what he's saying. Continue. Miss Cochran is extremely serious about her academic accomplishments, he continues. Despite the grudge that you continue to hold against her, she can be valuable for advancing any career that you wish to pursue. Although she has only finished her second year, she is already working on trying to publish a paper about the importance of discretion in magical communities. Befriending someone who seeks to achieve so much early on can only benefit you in the future, as opposed to, say, eating your weight in ice cream each weekend. Maybe he means it like a joke, but now I really do feel sick to my stomach. And not the same kind of stomach ache that I had yesterday. How dare you? I demand as I leap to my feet. I don't like Minnie for a very, very good reason, and you know that. Am I upset that you have time for her and not for me? Yes, but you're a teacher and I can look past that. That's your job. That's your responsibility. But it's not your job to tell me who to socialize with or to try to pick on my best friend. Tori. No, don't even say it. I shake my head and walk to the other side of the room, seriously trying to decide if I should just storm out. Virginia is my best friend. We've gotten into plenty of arguments, but you know what happened when she found out that the whole school was teasing me for being married to you? She threatened to beat everybody up. Hieronymous just raises his eyebrows. And you find this senseless threat of violence persuasive in what manner? I roll my eyes. She wanted to stick up for me. She had my back when not even Ellen did. As soon as Ellen found out that I was married to you, she said that I had to be different and that it was too hard for her. So even she turned her back on me. The whole school was making fun of me. You didn't want to talk to me, and Virginia was the only person who would even be caught dead eating lunch with me in the cafeteria. She was still upset that I didn't tell her anything about our wedding either, but she was able to look past it because she knew I really needed her. And last year? Hieronymous asks. He doesn't seem angry now, just curious. When she decided that you could no longer be your roommate and forced you to sleep in the mailroom, what happened then? That was different, I insist. She heard rumors that I attacked her. She had her mind violated because of me, but she realized she was wrong and she apologized. You know, she might not be the best student in class. She might not be super smart. She might be lazy and spoiled and, okay, maybe she eats way too much ice cream, but her heart is in the right place. When Ellen had nowhere to go on her first Thanksgiving, she insisted that she come home with her. When Jacob insisted on using magic and sports club, she held her ground and said no because it wouldn't be fair to younger students who didn't know advanced spells. She can be headstrong, and sure, she won't ever be as accomplished as Minnie might be, but she's my best friend, and I'm not going to trade her for Minnie, especially when she told everyone in the school about us just because she wanted to distract everyone from the drama between her and Keo. And sure, it sucks knowing that you would prefer pretty much anyone else in the school was my best friend, but Virginia is my best friend, and that's not going to change. I know you probably wish that I was more like Minnie, all studious and quiet, but I'm not, and even if I do magically become better friends with her, it's not going to change anything about me. I'm still going to be brash and sometimes annoying, and why are you laughing? Hieronymous just chuckles as he shakes his head. And still going to give persuasive speeches? I fold my arms across my chest as I square my shoulders and do my best to look aloof. Of course. Despite what you may think, Tori, I don't actually prefer Miss Cochran to you, he explains. However, that's not to say that I don't feel guilty. She only got pulled into our wedding through her position as class president, and thus she was thrust into a responsibility that she had no business being entrusted with. The consequences of that responsibility came to light last year when the entire school forgot that we were married, except for her. It was at my request that she avoid my classes to put more distance between the two of you and to prevent you from being exposed to any unnecessary triggers. Prioritizing her education now is a way for me to address the interruption to her education that I had no right to undermine in the first place. I shuffle uncomfortably. I know that. It's the only thing I can think of to say. And I know that you are trying to act more mature for my sake, Tori, but please listen when I tell you it's unnecessary. I have my own personal feelings toward the Danson siblings, but I don't want them to cloud your relationship with them in any way. As much as you may want to insist otherwise, you are still a child yet, at least in some ways, and it is a bit of a relief to see you out and about with Ms. Danson and your friends acting your own age. But I want you to take me seriously, I counter. Like, I know you've said before you find it cute and charming when I get an ice cream tummy ache, but I still can't help but think you'd rather I be off somewhere else doing just about anything else. Hieronymous sighs. There is something to be said about that old expression. What was it? The definition of stupidity is doing the same thing several times and expecting a different result. Something to that effect. I can't imagine why anyone would continuously go to the mall every weekend only to eat themselves sick when they know the end result is a poor one. Because it makes Virginia happy, I say with a shrug, and no one else will do it with her, so I will. That's what friends are for. I caution you to take that advice at the expense of your own health, Hieronymous advises. You are rapidly becoming a mature young woman, Tori, but I feel the need to remind you that you need to focus on your own pursuits first. You want to be a good friend to Virginia, despite the detriment to your health. You want to be a good mentor to Daniel, despite your hesitation concerning your role. You want to be a good wife to me, and while I do appreciate it, I'm concerned that you are neglecting your own needs in order to address those of everyone around you. I can handle my own needs, I tell him firmly. Look at you. You have so many responsibilities, to students, to advancing your own magic, and yet you still manage to make time for me every day. He shakes his head. I'm not one to model yourself after, Tori, he cautions. Why do you think I do so much around this school? Before you were here, I told myself it was penance for what happened years ago, and I devoted every single bit of free time that I had to making sure that students didn't make silly, life-altering mistakes like I did. Now, since we're together, I find myself lamenting how many responsibilities I have thrust upon myself, especially when I'd like to spend at least just one morning a week sleeping in with you. A blush spreads across my cheeks, and I'm not quite sure what I can say in response, except to volunteer something I hadn't already. I want to do something with memory magic after I graduate, I tell him. After what happened with me, I want to understand more about how it works. Ellen and I, and I'm honestly afraid to tell you this, but we want to look at magic from a more scientific, analytical perspective. But I know magic and science don't mix, so I've been afraid to tell you. To his credit, Hieronymous nods as he seems to contemplate this for a moment. While I never want to be one to stunt your educational growth, Tori, I can respect why you had reservations about telling me this. You and your friend are both wild seeds by birth. You were not raised in magical customs and thus don't understand the ramifications of your decisions. When I tell you this, it's not to treat you as a child or imply that you don't know better, but you were not raised in our customs. Just like Daniel, there's another world that you are completely unaware of, and you need to consider those consequences before you can proceed further. I just nod along in time to his words. For some reason, I had always thought that this would be an argument. I would tell him what I wanted to do with my life. He would say no and explain that I didn't know any better. Then I would get mad at him for treating me like a child. But I can't get mad. Not at this. He was right. Just like I was teaching Daniel American customs, I didn't know the customs of the magical community as well as someone who was raised in those traditions. I could learn, but... So basically what you're telling me is that what I want to do, or at least try to do, isn't an option for me? I ask. Hieronymous pauses as he seems to honestly be churning my question over in his mind. Not necessarily. I, personally, don't know enough about the topic in order to give you greater specifics, but as long as you keep the existence of the magical community a secret, I'm sure there is some way for you to accomplish your pursuits, if that is what you choose to study. What do you mean? I ask as I shake my head. Think about what happened to me. Why wouldn't I? There are more classes that you will take in the next 2 years here at Iris Academy that will help set you up for what future you want to pursue, Hieronymous continues. There is no need to tie your future career to a trauma that you experienced in hoping to alleviate the struggles of those who might experience the same. As someone who has taken that path, I can tell you that it might not always be the right one. I consider what he's saying. Before he met me, Hieronymous resigned himself to be a teacher for the rest of his life to prevent other students from making the same mistakes he did when he was a student. But now that we were together, he was beginning to open himself up to the idea of doing something else with his life. Something outside of teaching. That's true, I say, my voice turning teasing to alleviate the somber nature of our conversation. I mean, we might go to England for a while. I might continue my education there while you take over your father's seat, if that's something you're still open to. Who knows? Maybe I won't have to worry about a career because I'll be too busy raising children. Hieronymous chuckles softly as he shakes his head. As much as I would like to start a family with you one day, I would rather see you excel at your own ambitions before that time. As you yourself said, we are in no rush to start a family, and I am in no rush to busy myself with all the intricate details that such a role requires. I pause for a moment as I consider this. You'll be really busy then, I venture. But you're also really busy now too. Is it possible for you to maybe step back from some of your responsibilities here so that you do have more free time to open yourself up to other things? I know I'll be leaving Iris in 2 years, and I want to explore the world with you. Wherever we go, I was hoping we could go, together. It's a fair request, Hieronymous agrees before his face turns serious again. I do, however, lament that I wasn't able to complete an independent study with you this year, Tori. I know that you have many questions for me, especially concerning magical customs, and I haven't had time to address them. True, I say softly as I dig the toe of my sneaker into the floor, but I don't actually take magical history and customs until next year. There's a lot I can learn then. And I don't have to have an independent study with you to actually learn from you either. We could talk about things over dinner, or while we're reading in bed together. I know there's a lot I don't know, and there's a lot I need to learn, but you don't have to be the only person to teach me. Perhaps, Hieronymous says with a tight smile, but I do enjoy watching you learn, Tori. You have a passion for knowledge that I have only seen in myself. You are reflective and curious of the world around you, and I want to be the one to temper that innate curiosity with wisdom. And you do, I reply as I smile up at him. But in the meantime, it looks like we're the ones passing on our wisdom, considering we're Daniel's loco parentis. Quite right, Hieronymous replies with a nod. What do you think of him? He seems to have taken quite a liking to you. I think that's only because I'm the first person he's met who has actually given him a choice as to what he wants to do in maybe his entire life, I venture. That, and I don't treat him like he's special, because to me, he's not. I can't wrap my head around how he grew up, so I decided I'm not even going to try and just treat him like anyone else here. As well you should, Hieronymous says with a quick nod. Though it should be noted, however, that if we do ever pass through their territory, we would be required to visit. It would be poor form not to. I think social calls will be more of a problem for you than it is for me, I tease gently. But speaking of, what do you think of Daniel? Why did you push him off on me? Hieronymous shrugs, taking my question at face value. As already stated, I spend too much of my time on other pursuits. This will allow me to spend more time with you, and considering that the boy's interested in cultivating the social pastimes of American teenagers, it only makes sense that he should be enriched by one. Okay, that makes sense, I say slowly. But what do you think about him? Hieronymous just raises an eyebrow as if he doesn't understand my question, but I'm not sure how to rephrase it. What am I supposed to do? Just ask him if he reminds him of himself when he was younger? Would he even give me a straight answer to that question? I had been having a lot of honest talks with Hieronymous tonight, but I wasn't ready to talk to him about that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. It's getting late, Tori, Hieronymous says. Maybe we should think about getting to bed, He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to answer. Maybe he felt as though he had already opened up to me enough tonight, or maybe he didn't want to share that with me, but either way, I wasn't in any mood to push him. All right, I agree as I walk up and plant a chaste kiss on his lips. Good talk. I start to pull away when Hieronymous grabs my arm and pulls me into him, pushing the kiss deeper. Maybe he was done talking, but if this was how he wanted to continue the conversation, I couldn't say I was opposed.